Most people think the most dangerous people in their lives are strangers in the dark. They're wrong. The most dangerous person you'll ever meet is the one who knows your bank passwords, your childhood fears, and your deepest secrets. I'm talking about family. Today, we are opening the vault on the nuclear fallout. We're looking at 5 cases where blood relatives didn't just cross the line, they erased it. We're starting with a daughter whose parents stole her entire $50,000 future to buy a luxury RV, and how she turned that RV into their prison. But stick around for Story Fae 4. It's a story of a golden child who thought he could frame his brother for a crime, only to find out his brother had been recording every single conversation for 3 years. If you believe that respect is earned, not inherited, hit that subscribe button. This is the ultimate archive of family revenge. We're starting with a betrayal that hits every student's worst nightmare. Story number 1. The Tuition Thief. Imagine working for years to save for your future, only to find out your own parents treated your bank account like their personal ATM. This is how one daughter turned her parents' dream RV into a legal prison. I worked 2 jobs in high school while maintaining a 4 GPA. My grandmother, the only person in my family who actually valued education, had left me a $50,000 trust fund. It was my ticket to med school, my way out of a house where I was always the unpaid babysitter for my younger siblings. 2 weeks before my first tuition payment was due, I logged in to transfer the funds. The balance wasn't $50K. It was $12,420. I ran downstairs, heart pounding, thinking we'd been hacked. My parents were sitting in the driveway, in a brand new $80,000 luxury RV. My dad didn't even look up from the steering wheel. He just said, "We've sacrificed for you for 18 years, Sarah. It's our turn to live a little. You can just take out a loan like everyone else." The audacity was staggering. They didn't just borrow the money. They spent it on a depreciating asset while telling me to go into 20 years of debt. When I pointed out that the money was legally mine via my grandmother's will, my mom laughed. She said, "The account was in our names too. It's our money now. If you don't like it, you can find somewhere else to live." That was their first mistake. They thought I was a child. They forgot that I was the one who did all the filing for my dad's independent construction business. I didn't move out that day. I stayed for 3 months. I was the perfect daughter. I even helped them wash the RV. But every night, while they slept, I was in the home office. I wasn't just looking for my money, I was looking for their secrets. And I found them. My dad hadn't paid a dime in payroll taxes for his contractors in 5 years. He was also claiming the primary residence, the house I lived in, as a business expense, while also claiming it was a rental property. I didn't just call the IRS. I waited for the big trip. They were planning a month-long maiden voyage in the RV. The day they pulled out of the driveway, I called the whistleblower hotline. I provided 5 years of digital invoices, bank statements, and forged tax returns. But I didn't stop there. The house was technically in a family trust that my grandmother had set up, and because of a clerical error my dad made years ago to avoid creditors, I was listed as the secondary trustee with signing authority if the primary was legally incapacitated or in significant debt to the state. When the IRS hit them with a massive lion and a freeze on their accounts, the debt to the state triggered. I used my trustee power to put the house on the market immediately. In this economy, it sold in 4 days to a cash buyer. My parents returned from their trip to find a sold sign and a moving crew clearing out their stuff. Their bank accounts were frozen. The RV repossessed because they couldn't make the first insurance payment without the frozen funds. They called me screaming, crying, calling me a monster. I simply said, "I'm just living a little, like you told me to." I took my share of the house sale, which was triple what they stole, and moved across the country. I haven't spoken to them since, but I hear they're living in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment. Blood is thicker than water, sure, but it's not thicker than a legal summons. That was a case of financial greed, but sometimes family betrayal is about something much more petty: attention. Story number 2. The Wedding Thief. When your own sister decides that your wedding day is actually her stage, things get ugly fast. But she didn't realize that I had a special presentation ready for the reception. My sister, Courtney has main character syndrome. If it's your birthday, she's depressed, so everyone comforts her. If you get a promotion, she suddenly has a medical emergency. But my wedding was the final straw. Courtney told me for months she couldn't afford a bridesmaid dress. I offered to buy it. She refused. Then, the morning of the wedding, she showed up. She wasn't wearing the navy blue theme I'd requested. She walked into the bridal suit wearing a designer white lace floor-length gown. It was practically a second wedding dress. She looked me in the eye and said, "Oh, I didn't think you'd mind. I just wanted to feel pretty today, too. Besides, I have a big announcement." She was planning to announce a pregnancy during my vows. What Courtney didn't know was that I had seen her positive pregnancy test in the trash 2 days ago. It was a prank kit she bought online. She wasn't pregnant, she just wanted the spotlight. I didn't kick her out. That would make me the bridezilla. Instead, I called the caterer and the DJ. During the reception, Courtney stood up, clinking her glass to interrupt the speeches. She started her fake crying routine, saying, "I have a miracle to share." Right then, the DJ cut her mic. The projector screen, the one meant for our childhood photo montage, flickered to life. It wasn't photos of me. It was a high-definition photo of the fake pregnancy kit. Receipt I found in her email, along with the search history on her laptop for how to upstage a bride. The room went silent. My dad, who always defended her, walked over, took her champagne glass, and told her to leave. She tried to scream that I hacked her, but the guests were already laughing. She spent the night in a motel. I spent the night dancing. The best part. I sent her the bill for the projector rental. If you think a white dress is bad, wait until you see the absolute hypocrisy of a family that throws you away, until they need your organs. Story number 3. The kidney trap. This is the moment a black sheep found out exactly how much their life was worth to their parents, and why blood isn't always a free pass for a second chance. I was the mistake. My parents made sure I knew it every single day. My older brother, Kyle, was the star athlete, the straightest student, the pride of the family. I was the black sheep because I preferred art to football and didn't fit their image of a perfect son. On my 18th birthday, they didn't give me a cake. They gave me a suitcase and told me they were converting my room into Kyle's trophy room and home gym. They told me I was on my own and blocked my number. I struggled. I worked 3 jobs, slept in my car, and eventually built a successful life as a graphic designer. I hadn't heard a word from them in a decade. No happy birthday, no are you alive. Nothing, until 3 months ago. My phone buzzed with a restricted number. It was my mother. She wasn't calling to apologize. She was sobbing because Kyle's kidneys were failing. He needed a transplant, and, surprise, surprise, neither of my parents were a match. But I was his only sibling, his only hope. The next day they invited me to dinner. Not at their house, they didn't want me seeing the trophy room, but at an expensive steakhouse. They spent 20 minutes pretending they cared about my life before my dad dropped the bomb. "Kyle is dying, son. We need you to go down to the hospital tomorrow for testing. It's the least you can do for your brother after we raised you." I looked at them. They hadn't seen me in 10 years. They didn't know I had a fiancé, or that I'd recently bought a house. They just saw a spare part. When I asked what happened to Kyle, they admitted he'd lived a fast life and ignored medical advice for years. I told them I'd think about it. My mother actually grabbed my arm and said, "There's nothing to think about. He's your brother. It's your duty." I went to the hospital, not for the test, but to see the bill. Not Kyle's medical bill, mine. I met my parents the following week. I pulled out a folder. It contained a detailed invoice of every dollar I'd spent on rent, food, and tuition since the day they kicked me out. Total of $142,000. I also included a contract of severance. I told them, "I will get tested on one condition. You pay me back the $142,000 you cost me by abandoning me at 18, and you sign a legal document admitting you were unfit parents and waiving any future right to contact me. Pay for my past and I might save his future." My dad turned purple. He called me a mercenary and a monster. My mom screamed that I was selling my brother's life. I stood up, took the folder, and said, "You sold mine for a trophy room 10 years ago. I guess we're even." And I walked out. I didn't give him the kidney. Kyle eventually found a donor on the national list, but the recovery was long and expensive, costing my parents their entire retirement savings. People ask me if I feel guilty. I don't. A family is a support system, not a blood harvesting farm. They wanted a donor, not a son. So I gave them exactly what they deserved: silence. Stick around for Story Fae 4. This one is personal. It's about a brother who tried to frame his own sibling for a crime to save his reputation. But he forgot one very important detail. Rejecting a family member's medical plea is one thing. But what do you do when a sibling tries to send you to prison to save their own skin? Story number 4, the golden child's frame job. My brother was the hero of the town, but he made one fatal mistake. He forgot that I've been recording our conversations for years. My brother, James, was a local hero. He was a rising star at a prestigious law firm, the kind of guy who did charity runs on weekends and was our parents' pride and joy. I, on the other hand, was the tech nerd with a remote job and a small apartment. One Friday night, James showed up at my door. He was panicked. He'd been an offender bender after a firm happy hour and begged me to say I was the one driving his car so he wouldn't lose his license and his career. He promised he'd pay for the repairs and make it up to me. Because he was my brother, I almost said yes. But something in his eyes felt wrong. He wasn't just worried, he was terrified. I told him I needed an hour to think. As soon as he left, I checked the local police scanner. It wasn't a fender bender. It was a hit and run on a parked Tesla with $30,000 in damages, and a witness had seen a man matching my description. James hadn't come to me for help. He'd come to me because we looked strikingly similar on camera. He was setting me up. I didn't call the police yet. I invited him back over. But before he walked through the door, I turned on my hidden home office camera and started a voice recording on my phone, which I tucked into my pocket. James, did you decide? Just tell the cops you took my keys while I was asleep. I'll give you 10,000 cash. Me? James, was anyone hurt? I heard it was a hit and run. James, it was just a car, man. I was drunk, I panicked. If I go down, the family name is ruined. You don't have a reputation to protect anyway. Just do this for Mom and Dad. He admitted it. On tape. He admitted he was drunk, he admitted the hit and run, and he admitted he thought my life was less valuable than his. The next morning, my parents called. They didn't ask how I was. They told me I needed to take the fall for James. They said, he has a future, you just sit behind a computer all day. I realized then that the whole family was in on the Save James mission. So, I went to the police station. But I didn't go to confess. I handed the officer my phone and the SD card from my office camera. I told them, my brother is here to report a crime. And I'm here to provide the evidence. James was arrested at his law firm that afternoon. Because he tried to suborn perjury and frame someone else, the prosecutor went for the maximum. He lost his bar license, his job, and his hero status in 4 hours. My parents tried to sue me for emotional distress. The judge laughed them out of the courtroom. They haven't spoken to me since, which is the best gift they ever gave me. James is now working at a warehouse, and the family name he was so worried about. It's associated with a hit and run fill-on. Sometimes the betrayal is about a crime, but sometimes it's about a legacy. Stick around for our final story, Story Fae 5. It's the story of a father who fired his own son to hire his new family, and how the son made sure his father's business didn't survive the year. We've seen legal and emotional warfare, but our final story is about professional dominance and the ultimate boss move. Story number 5, the business coup. My father fired me to hire my entitled step-brother, thinking I was just an employee. He forgot that I was the one who owned the servers. This is how I dismantled a multi-million-dollar company in a single afternoon. I spent 12 years building my father's logistics company. I was the CO. I knew every client, every driver, and every line of the software I'd custom built to save us millions in overhead. My dad always said, one day, son, this will all be yours. Then he got remarried to a woman 10 years younger than him. Suddenly, his vision for the company changed. 6 months ago, he called me into his office. My stepbrother, Leo, a guy who had never held a job for more than 3 months, was sitting in my chair. My dad didn't even look me in the eye. He said, Leo needs a start, and frankly, your salary is too high for the current budget. We're letting you go. Consider it a family contribution to your new brother's future. I was escorted out by security. 12 years of 80-hour weeks, gone in 12 minutes. They thought I was just an employee. They forgot I was the architect. See, my dad never liked paying for expensive lawyers. When I built the proprietary routing software that ran the entire company, I wrote the licensing agreement myself. I owned the intellectual property. The company only had a revocable license to use it as long as I was an active officer of the firm. The moment my termination papers were signed, that license expired. But I didn't flip the switch yet. I waited. I knew Leo would try to modernize the company by firing the veteran drivers to save on benefits. I waited for the exact moment the company signed its biggest contract of the decade, a multi-million-dollar deal with a national retailer. The Monday morning that the national contract went live, I sent a formal cease and desist. Within an hour, I remotely deactivated the server. The company went dark. 200 trucks were stranded across the country with no routing, no manifests, and no way to track deliveries. My dad called me 40 times in 2 hours. When I finally answered, he was screaming that I was ruining the family. I told him,
"No, Dad.
Leo is the boss now. Let him fix it." Leo couldn't fix it. He didn't even know the admin password. The national retailer canceled the contract within 48 hours due to the blackout. The company's reputation was incinerated. With no revenue and massive breach of contract lawsuits looming, the family business went into freefall. I didn't just watch it burn. I'd already started my own firm. When my dad's company declared bankruptcy, I bought his remaining assets, the trucks and the warehouse, for pennies on the dollar at the auction. I hired back every single driver Leo had fired. Today, my company is twice the size of my father's. He and Leo are currently living in a rented condo, blaming me for their bad luck. They say never mix family and business. I say, if you're going to do it, make sure you own the servers. 5 stories. 5 betrayals. 5 lives changed forever. If there's one lesson here, it's this: just because someone shares your name doesn't mean they share your heart. If you want to see what happens when the drama moves from the office to the courtroom, you need to watch our Inheritance Wars playlist. These are the stories of people who fought over millions and lost their souls in the process. Click the video on your screen right now.